So let's talk about sales droughts, okay? So there are two kind of groups of people where this might be relevant, okay? First group is you've never had sales yet in your business or in a new business or a new offer. And that's always going to come down to some strategic elements first and foremost, right? You need to get your offer right, you need to sort out your messaging, all of the things, okay? So everything that I'm going to say today doesn't mean that you don't need to do those strategic things, like you do need to do them as well. Oh my God, my Wi-Fi is playing up today. But anyway, so you still need to do those pieces. The second group, right, you have been selling an offer and you feel like you've pretty much nailed your messaging and you've been selling it for some time, but then things have started to dip, okay? So that's another group. And so what I'm going to talk about today, it will be relevant for both groups. You'll be able to take something away from it, okay? The thing that I want to leave with you is that both of these things, even though there is a strategic component to them, okay, they both have to do with frequency, okay? And specifically, they have to do with the alignment of your vibration with the clients that you are calling in, okay? So if you are finding yourself in a sales slump or a sales drought, what has happened is that where you were like this with your ideal client, okay, you are now like this. So you have fallen out of alignment, you have fallen out of vibration. You are now talking on different frequencies, okay? And there are various reasons why that may happen, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit about them today and how you can sort of fix them energetically, okay? So that's kind of who I'm talking to, and hopefully that makes sense. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about how I discovered this, right? So I shared in the call that I did, the class I did, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about being lucky in business, right? I told a little bit about my story in corporate, okay? And you're on my camera. You just say hello to the people. That's my beautiful husband. So yes, I told you a little bit about my story, right? And essentially, if you haven't seen that video, what I said was, I got to a certain level in my career where I realized that if I was going to get up to the really senior ranks, I was going to have to master sales, okay? And I became really, really interested in becoming like a rainmaker type of person, someone who was good at bringing money into the business, okay? And the thing is, like most of you, I really kind of felt a little bit icky about that because I had, I guess, a preconception that made you kind of like a snake oil salesperson. And I really valued the technical component of what I did, just giving value to people. And at that time, I didn't really understand that sales could be of deep service, okay? So I had this perception, but I knew it was important. So I started to ask myself this question, right? So that I didn't have to feel icky about becoming this salesperson. I started to ask myself, what if I didn't need to sell anything to anyone? Okay, what if I just positioned myself offering something that people already wanted to buy, right? And I've told you before that, you know, my career has been in management consulting, right? And it's very much relationship driven sales. We don't do cold outreach, cold pitches or anything like that, okay? It's all based on the brand and the relationships, which has been really useful for me in this business, right, and teaching me a new way to do things. So anyway, asking that myself that question unlocked a number of things for me, okay, and then I ended up having an amazing breakthrough in this, and I ended up in an area that was really, really hot, even though other people couldn't see it, and I made my first £4 million in sales in 1 year, okay, and that went on to tens of millions of sales and then eventually leading a sales team for the company, right? So this is where I first discovered that you could tap into something beyond just the strategic elements, right, in order to get people to buy, right, or to attract people who are already buying, right? Okay, so that's a little bit about how I came to discover this. And then in my own businesses, I've applied the same thing. And so whenever I'm feeling like things are a bit slow, I'm going to just talk you through today the process and the thought process, the consciousness that I'm coming from that changes this, right? So let me go on to, let me check my notes, right? So point number one, okay, and I think I'm going to go through 4 things with you guys today if you're taking notes. The first thing, you will not be surprised. You need to re-establish or establish for the first time your own personal conviction, okay? Now, this is the thing about conviction, right? All sales is a transference of belief, particularly when we're talking about spiritual entrepreneurship, okay? And you're selling something that's rather intangible. We are talking about the transference of belief, okay? So if you don't have any about your own offer, your ability to help people, your ability to create transformation, you are not going to be able to transfer that belief to other people, okay? So you need to work on that. Now, this is the thing that happens when you find yourself in a sales slump or a sales drought, okay? There might be some external factors why this has happened initially. You're like, you start to notice things are a little bit slow. Then what ends up happening is then it becomes a little bit of a spiral, right? So you forget that a slow season is temporary, and then you end up, because you're not having many sales, you end up serving less people, right? You become less connected to your clients, to what's on their mind, to what's bothering them, okay? You start to fall out of the frequency of the language that they're using around the real problems that they have, and then you actually start to have less confidence about your ability to help people because you're not helping people every day, right? And then that sort of lower confidence translates into you not showing up in the same frequency that you were before, which then turns into fewer sales again. So it becomes this perpetuating cycle, which is very, very dangerous if you haven't caught it, right? So I want you to think about, if you're watching this with me, whether it's live or on the replay, which part of that spiral do you feel that you are in? Do you feel like you've got all the way to the point where your confidence is now impacting how you are showing up? Or are you at the place where you're feeling like you're not confident in your offer because you're not seeing enough clients, okay? So this is the spiral. So you need to re-establish the conviction that you have, right? And there are some really easy ways to do this. One is to have, in corporate, I used to call this a boast book, right? I had a mentor many, many years ago who encouraged me to start one, which was just a list of all of your accomplishments, feedback people have given you, testimonials, just going back through where you have changed someone's life, okay? And so this works really well if you have an offer that isn't selling anymore, okay? Just re-establish the conviction by reminding yourself of all of the ways that you've helped people, okay? If you haven't had any sales in this offer before, this is another thing that you can do. Everyone can do this. I want you to write down 50 ways in which you help people, in which you are an expert, in which you create transformation for people, okay? Just write down a list. And then you'll start to feel like what you do is important, which is going to impact the way that you show up, okay? So that's number one, re-establishing your own conviction in what you do and how you do it for people, right? So number two is you need to tap into the collective frequency, okay? So for the guys who have done Gods of Money with me or in the Destiny program, you have heard me talk about this before, okay? I call this tapping into collective unconscious desire, right? This is, if I can put the success of my business to any one particular thing, which is hard because it's a multifaceted thing, but it would be this, right? My ability to tap into the collective unconscious desire, right? Now, this is the thing. Sometimes the industry that you're in, right, including the buyers, right, the individual buyers and potential clients have shifted their frequency, right? And this shows up as different buying behavior, right? By the way, this is also why you see shifts in the algorithm, because the algorithm is really just tracking collective behavior, right? So when it is shifting, it's because something underlying has shifted, something in consciousness has shifted, okay? Right, so that doesn't mean necessarily anything about you and that your offer isn't good enough or you aren't good enough. Please don't see a sales drought as meaning anything personal about you. It doesn't mean anything personal about you at all, right? It just means that there's been a shift that's happened that you haven't been able to tap into yet. You haven't caught up with it yet, okay? So this is how you are going to re-establish your connection with that collective frequency. So the first thing that you're going to do is you are going to re-establish clarity or get clear on who you are speaking to, right? This is marketing 101, your ideal client. This is really important when you're going through this type of energetic process though, because otherwise you are going to be tapping into frequencies and signals that do not belong to that group, and they're going to confuse you, okay, and make you more confused and put you further into the spiral, right? So you need to be really, really clear who you are speaking to and who you want to broadcast to, right? The second thing you want to do is you want to shift your orientation, your internal orientation, your posture, and your attention and focus to your clients, potential clients, ideal clients, etc. Okay, this is one of the major things that I do when I'm working with people one-to-one in my VIP days, right? It looks like strategy work, but it's really energy work, and a lot of that energy work is reorienting people's energy, because when you have found yourself in a sales spiral, right, in a sales drought, you will have unconsciously started focusing your attention on you and how bad you feel about the situation. Okay, so when you are focusing all of that energy internally to you and how you're feeling, right? So you might be feeling anxious, you might feel like you're not able to pay bills, you might feel a lack of significance, all sorts of emotions and things you have attached to an external circumstance, right? Those are all things that are detracting attention from your clients, okay? And it shows up in ways such as the way that you speak to them or speak about them in your content, right? Because you become very self-focused, and being very self-focused doesn't attract clients, because clients really just want to work with you to solve their own problems, right? So you need to tap back in to them, orient yourself around to them, really focused on what are the issues and the challenges that they are having, what problems are they most focused on, and how can I solve them, okay? Now this is the thing. This is the thing that is a bit different in the way that I try and help people do this, okay? You want to make sure that you are tapping into not just the current frequency of those clients, you want to be tapping into an emerging frequency, okay? What do I mean by this? Well, what I said earlier was that frequency has shifted, right? So you're probably already talking to a previous version of your clients subtly. So you want to tap into an emerging frequency, which is going to be linked to an aspirational identity. There might just be small shifts in that the way that they're thinking that you need to talk to, okay? If you go too far into the future, right, and this is a problem that many spiritual entrepreneurs have, you can see how the collective is changing, how consciousness is changing, and you're speaking too far into the future to that, and you're also not getting any sales. So you need to be careful of not to go too far into the future, and also not too far into the past, right? And this is an art form, but you really want to focus on what is the identity that is emerging in this current time, and how can I help that person, okay? Now, this is what I want to tell you about doing this practically, okay? You're all going to have different ways of tapping into any frequency, right, energetically, okay? My personal favorite spiritual practice for this is the practice of contemplation, okay? So it's like meditation, except that you are not emptying your mind, okay, or focusing on nothing. You are filling your mind and focusing on your ideal clients, what they need, okay? You can also visualize meeting your ideal clients in the spiritual space, in the astral. You can visualize having focus groups, okay? For those of you who do traveling, okay, you can travel and actually meet people. You can meet mentors. There's many things you can do. I think I might do another class on how you can meet mentors in this way as well. Okay, So those are some practical ways that you can tap into the collective unconscious desire, right? Now, what might happen is that you may then be inspired to speak to some people in real life, right? Some past clients, do some research. These are all physical manifestations of the same thing, okay? But what I'm talking about is creating an energetic room where you can meet with the frequency of people who you are here to serve, and you can understand what they need, what they desire, and the solution they are already looking for. Because this is the thing about sales, okay? Sales in a spiritual sense is you don't want to be selling anything to anyone who doesn't already want to buy it. People who are really, really successful at sales and who have tapped into this spiritual dimension of it are doing what I said at the beginning of this class, right? They are basically just knowing in advance what people already want to buy, what they are already demanding, what they are already desiring, and they are taking the ownership and the responsibility for manifesting the solution here. Okay, so a really good salesperson, a spiritual salesperson, knows how to manifest a solution on behalf of their ideal client, the collective, yeah, the niche, right, the collective niche. And I often talk to you guys about the fact that a niche is basically an altar, yeah, a focus point. So that is your job. Right, okay, so that was number 2, about tapping into the collective frequency. Number 3 is you need to become energetically open for business, right? So many of us, maybe because of the sales slump that we've experienced or the sales spiral, right, have actually closed ourselves for business. And we may not think that we have because we're showing up on socials and we're doing all of the things, right? But if you have maybe fallen out of love with your offer, or you're finding it really heavy to deliver, or you are burned out, you may subconsciously not want any sales, right? And I'm sure many of you have heard this before. So you really need to sit with yourself and ask yourself, the thing that I'm selling, do I actually want to deliver? What is it going to feel like for more people to come into my world? Am I going to enjoy that? Am I not going to be enjoying that? This is basically a way to check whether you are vibrationally aligned with the offer that you're putting out, right? Okay, you might not like the way that you're doing business at the moment, so you need to deal with that. And once you have dealt with that, you can then make yourself energetically open for business, okay? And that's literally like putting almost like a metaphorical open sign, yeah, on the front of your door, okay? So become energetically open for business is number 3. And number 4, this is the last one that I'm going to share with you guys, and hopefully this has been helpful for you. Once you have tapped into this frequency, right, okay, you need to translate this into some specific business strategies and execution plans, okay? So you may have done all of this and then created some stuff. So you might even have updated your sales page as an example, okay? But if you are not actively using the intelligence and the language that has come through this process that you have done, right? So maybe you've been sitting in meditation and you've received something. If you don't start using that language and intelligence in your content every day, or if you're selling other ways in your conversations with people every day, you are not going to get the vibration that you have created physically into your strategy, right? And I've told you guys many times before, a business strategy is just a container for your energy, the energy that sits behind your business. Any strategy can work, right? But you need the strategy and the execution of it to anchor the vibration that sits behind your business, right? This is what I teach in the Frequency First Business. And this is how you do this, right? So that might show up in various different ways, but primarily content and the way that you speak, right? The way that you speak. Okay, so let me just give you an example before we wrap up and I start taking some questions, right? I had a beautiful client who is a DE&I consultant, right? And we built her business together. She was one of my very first clients that did VIP days with. Now it's like 3 years ago. 4 years ago, okay? She built her business to 6 figures in 1 year, right, doing DEI consulting for corporations, okay? Trump gets elected, and what do you think happened to her business? Yeah, fell off the map. fell off the map overnight. Her business dried up, and companies were less excited to work with her. Okay, so she came back to me. We did another VIP day and some one-to-one work, and we essentially had to rebuild her business from scratch. Okay, this is a monumental event. Many of you won't have this extreme scenario happen in your business, but just one thing, the election of a Trump, completely changed the frequency of her buyers, right? Completely changed the frequency pretty much overnight. The market has shifted. So we talked about how can we reattune her to the frequency of the market, okay? And we did a couple of things. One of the things that we did was we repositioned her business, right, practically speaking, to talk about DE&I in a different way, right? So corporations would still buy. So we used different type of language, we positioned it completely differently and for a slightly different segment of the market, okay? The other thing that we did is we spun up another offer. So she was primarily B2B, like just working with organizations, but we created a direct-to-consumer, direct-to-customer offer for her as well. And she's created a coaching offer for women who wanted to be leaders, right? So these two things, and this wasn't an overnight thing, okay, but she was able to build her business back up to 6 figures, right? Again, this was in less than a year. This is the kind of thing that you need, the moves that you need to make once you've understood how to tune back into the frequency of the collective, once you understand what's happening, okay? Now, everyone's collective group is going to be different because you're all going to have different businesses and you're going to be in different niches, okay? A big part of being able to tap into this, into where your clients are, how they want to be spoken to, and what solutions they are already desiring to buy, okay, is having a great deal of empathy, right? So I teach empathy-led sales. Empathy-led sales. You are turning the attention off of yourself and you're focusing it not just on your art, not just on your creative expression or your self-expression, but on what people need and are desiring. And the combination of those two together is what's going to pull you out of a sales slump, okay? Right, so if you would like to do a free spirit and strategy session with me, I've been inspired to do a few of these. I'm going to do some more next week. If you would like to do that, I'm not going to be pitching you, and you're under no obligation to buy anything, but I just want to talk to you, right? If you're interested in that, you can DM me on Instagram or wherever you find me, and just let me know a bit about your business and what you're struggling with, okay? And we can hop on a call. If you would like to do a VIP day with me, which is an extended VIP day, so you spend 3 hours with me, it is a done in front of you service, right? So I create sales pages, copy, we work on your vibrational attunement. Depending on where you are in your business, we'll work on different things. And then you get 4 months with me in WhatsApp, where you can text me anytime, leave me voice notes, and we work on your business. And you also get 1 year access to the Destiny program as well, where we're having bi-weekly coaching. We're also doing manifestation for our businesses, okay? So if you would like to join us and join me and work together with me on that, you can apply and look at one of the links somewhere, okay? So let's do some questions.